Okay, today is day 20. I'm back to read again. It was a long week so far. Just started internship and yeah, got really busy just waking up early and just trying to figure out the schedules. But I'm back and I'll be continuing to talk and to share more. I think one thing that I really want to work on is how I present myself, especially the way I talk, which I will, share a little bit more about what I want to do subsequently. And yes, of course, to improve the way the videos look, improve the way I take the videos, and yes, change the way I do the storytelling. And eventually I hope to move towards more of my personal stories, and also obviously to try to reflect and give my thoughts on the stories I read. Yeah. But that being said, today we'll be going back to the game theory article. Zero sum versus positive sum, or why most people compete when they should cooperate. Zero sum game, your gain is my loss. Poker, sports, promotions with one opening. Shit like that is a fixed pie. Whatever you get, I lose. Whatever I get, you lose. In poker, one player ends up with all the chips. In sports, one team ends up winning the championship. Positive sum game, we can both win. Business, partnerships, trade, relationships. Basically, what he is saying over here is the difference between a zero sum game as well as the difference between a positive sum game. And now we are talking about what positive sum games are by explaining that the pie can grow in a positive sum game. Your success doesn't require my failure. And here is where most people mess up. They treat positive sum games like zero sum games. They compete when they should cooperate. They hoard when they should share. They optimize for relative position instead of absolute gain. They become selfish when they should share. I would give a classic example that many of you can probably relate to. Workplace dynamics. You and a co-worker are both competent. You could collaborate, share knowledge, make each other better because the team succeeds and you both get raises. Positive sum game. Pie grows for everyone. But you're worried they'll look better than you, so you withhold information, protect your knowledge, maybe even subtly sabotage them. Zero sum thinking. You're competing for relative position. Result: team performs worse. Both of you look worse. Raises are smaller and non-existent. You turn a positive sum game into a zero sum game through competitive mindset. Happens in relationships constantly. Partners viewing their needs as competing instead of complementary. If you get what you want, I don't get what I want. But often, people's needs could be met with creative solutions. The relationship pie could grow. Treating it like zero sum creates unnecessary conflict because both people fight for their share of a fixed pie instead of growing the pie together. Or business is another good example. Two companies in the same space viewing each other as pure competitors. They could partner and share resources, expand the market together while both growing faster. Instead, they undercut each other, race to bottom on pricing. Zero sum thinking in a positive sum market environment. The shift happens when you start asking, is this actually a competition or could we both win? Most games have more cooperative potential than people recognize, but competitive instinct kicks in automatically. Understanding whether you are in a zero sum or positive sum changes everything about strategy. Repeated games, or why reputation matters. You may not be interested in strategy, but strategy is interested in you. Leon Trotsky. One shot game, you play once, never to see the other player again. Incentive to defect, screw them over, maximize short-term gain. Repeated games, you play with the same person many times. Incentive to cooperate, build trust, and optimize long-term. And this is why reputation matters. Life isn't one shot. You are playing repeated games constantly, with co-workers, with clients, with friends, with partners, with people in general. Screw someone over for a short-term game, word gets out and nobody trusts you. Congrats, you just messed up yourself and now you are locked out of future cooperation. The prisoner dilemma we started with, it changes completely in repeated play. If you know you'll face the same prisoner situation multiple times with the same partner, cooperation becomes rational. Betray them once, they'll betray you forever. Neither of you can trust anyone. Locked into perpetual 5-year sentences. But if you cooperate and they cooperate, you both get 1 year each time. Way better long-term outcomes. This is why tit for tat is such an effective strategy in repeated games. Cooperate on first interaction, then mirror what they did. They cooperated, you cooperate. They defected, you defect next round. Simple strategy, incredibly robust. Wins more repeated games tournaments than complex strategy. And it maps perfectly to real life. Someone helps you, help them back. Someone screws you over, don't help them again. Builds reputation. People learn they can't exploit you, but they also learn they are willing to cooperate with cooperators. This is why freelancers obsess over reviews, why businesses care about brand reputation, why professionals maintain relationships, why people care about feedback. You're not playing one-shot games, you're playing repeated games in communities where information spreads. Your strategy in one game affects your options in all future games. People who optimize for short-term gains in repeated game environments end up isolated. Nobody wants to play with known defectors. And so reading until here, I just want to talk about the tit for tat strategy. I think that the tit for tat strategy is something that applied to me before. I learned about this on exchange when I was in Jeddah. And it was interesting because I always wanted to learn game theory. Game theory is, the tit for tat strategy is actually a very rational decision that I found myself making consistently. But more often than not, I feel like I tend to operate for someone else's benefit, or like I like to think in other people's shoes. So I tend to, if someone cooperates, I will cooperate with them. But if they really defect on me, naturally I'll defect. So it just comes across as a very logical, very human, a very rational thing to do. Like, do this, I'll follow. Do that, I'll follow. And I really like the idea of repeated games because really reputation is just repeated games, right? The more you do things, the more people know. And that will depend on what people will take in your subsequent actions. Yeah, so really reputation, the whole world being a game is really just game theory at its finest. By optimizing decisions and building out a model where you're incentivized to cooperate with other people. Coordination games, or why everyone does the same stupid thing. Coordination games, everyone benefits if we all do the same thing. It doesn't matter which thing, just that we coordinate. Driving on right versus left side of road. It doesn't matter which, it matters that everyone agrees. If people didn't agree on that, the streets would go to shit. Which messaging apps you use? It doesn't matter if it's WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, Snapchat, iMessage. It matters that your friends are on the same one. Which professional tools to learn. It doesn't matter if Photoshop is objectively best. It matters which one everyone else uses so you can collaborate. That is why suboptimal standards persist. Everyone's using the worst option, but nobody can switch because switching alone is worse than staying coordinated on the bad option. QWERTY keyboard layout is terribly inefficient. Designed to slow typists down so typewriters' keys wouldn't jam. We don't use typewriters anymore, better layouts exist, but everyone learns QWERTY. All keyboards are QWERTY, all typing jobs expect QWERTY. Switching individually will make you worse off. You can't type on standard keyboards, you can't use other people's computers, you will become incompatible with the world. So QWERTY persists, not because it's good, but because we are all so coordinated on it. Happens in companies constantly. Bad processes persist because everyone's coordinated around them. Why do we still do this way? Because that's how everyone does it. Nobody wants to be the first to change. Being miscoordinated is worse than being coordinated on a bad system. This is why culture change is so hard. It's not stupidity, it's coordination. Everyone's locked into the same equilibrium even though better equilibria exist. Breaking out requires simultaneous coordinated movement so everyone has to switch together. Very hard to orchestrate. But understanding you are in a coordination game explains why rational people keep doing obviously suboptimal things. It's not the individual choice that's wrong, it's the equilibrium everyone's locked into. Signaling games, or why everyone wastes money on bullshit. Signaling games, you can't directly prove something about yourself, so you do something costly that only someone with that quality could afford to do. Humans do this constantly. Expensive degrees on prestigious universities, yes, you learn things. But the primary signal is, I'm smart and conscientious enough to get in and complete this. Employers use degrees as filter because it's costly, it's hard to fake, and it acts as a good signal. Luxury goods. Rolex doesn't tell time better than Casio. You're not buying functionality, you're buying signal. I can afford to waste this much money. Signal of wealth also hard to fake long term. Working insane hours at finance or consulting firms, not because the work requires it, but because willingness to sacrifice personal life signals ambition and work ethic. Costly signal because lazy people filter themselves out naturally. And here's the messed up part. Once everyone's signaling, you have to signal just to keep up. If everyone has a bachelor's degree, you need a master's to stand out. If everyone's working 60 hours, you need to work 70. If everyone's wearing expensive clothes, your normal clothes signal low status. Signaling arms race. Everyone spends more to maintain relative position. Absolute waste increases, but relative positions stay the same. This is why credentialism inflates, why work hours creep up, why status goods get more expensive. Not because they are more valuable, but because everyone's locked in signaling competition. And you can't opt out individually. Refusing the signal makes you invincible, uncompetitive. Classic coordination problem. Everyone would be better off if we all stop wasteful signaling, but nobody can stop alone. Understanding signaling games helps you recognize when you are being forced into wasteful competition just to maintain position. Can't always escape it, but at least you know what game you are playing. The tragedy of the commons, or why everyone ruins everything. Shared resources, everyone benefits from using it, but overuse destroys it. Individually rationale to use as much as possible, collectively rationale to limit use. But nobody wants to limit themselves while others keep using. So everyone overuses, resource collapses, and everyone loses. Classic example, fishing. Everyone benefits from fishing. Individually, it would be rationale to catch as many fish as possible. But if everyone maximizes catches, fish population collapses, so then nobody gets fish. Yet no single fisher can fix it by fishing less. They just lose income while others keep overfishing. Collective action problem. Everyone would be better off with restraint, but restraint requires coordination nobody can enforce. This happens everywhere. Office kitchen. Everyone benefits from clean space. Individually costly to clean up, so everyone leaves mess. Kitchens become disaster, everyone's worse off. Open source projects. Everyone benefits from maintained code. Individually individually costly to contribute, so people use without contributing. Project stagnates. Social media. Everyone benefits from quality content. Individually easier to consume and shitpost, so platform fills with garbage and everyone's experience degrades. Environment. Everyone benefits from clean air and stable climate. Individually profitable to pollute, so everyone pollutes, the climate collapses. Everyone pollutes, the climate collapses, and everyone is fucked. Tragedy of the commons explains why shared resources get destroyed even when everyone knows it's happening. It's incentive structure, regulation. Fixing it requires either regulation, forcing everyone to limit use while removing individual choice but protects collective resources. Privatization gives individual ownership, meaning they have incentive to maintain but they can capture because they capture benefits. Community enforcement, small groups can monitor and punish overuse through social pressure. But large-scale commons are nearly impossible to maintain without institutional intervention. Understanding this helps you recognize when you're in a tragedy of the common situation and stop blaming individuals for responding rationally to fucked incentives. Right, so I guess this is about, say, this is Okay, so this is so yes, this is the reading for today. Today we really just went through 3 important game theory concepts, which personally I find very relatable to myself, especially since this was something that I studied before. And I think, as you can see over here, game theory is really quite interesting. I like how the truth is these invisible rules really determine and run every interaction between every individual. If there's one thing that I learned from today, it will be that, or maybe one thing that I wouldn't say I learned today in particular, but maybe say one thing that I feel is really very important to understand the game that you are playing right now, because the world is basically shaped around how the world is shaped around the world game, right? The entire world is a game with political structures, with economic structures, with financial structures. Basically, it's a game. A relationship is a game. Corporate life is a game. Everyone is trying to maximize their own incentives or helping others to achieve theirs so that they can get there. I think one thing that I liked and read very interestingly is the I think one thing that I like is the tragedy of the commons. Something that I never thought about before. Sounds really beautiful. But the truth is, for example, shared resources. I feel like on a personal level, it's my incentive to use as many common resources as possible. But on a corporate level, when everyone maximizes that, they don't profit. So now it becomes up to restricting. And so, as an individual, how do you navigate those rules? How do you become the one in power such that you have the one, or you are the one that is able to benefit? Can you be the one that creates the rules? Can you be the one that is controlling the system so that you are able to benefit from it in the most direct way, while ensuring collective responsibility? Yeah, all in all, I think that lies a game. I feel that we are moving towards a more cooperative structure in the world today. Yeah, collaborative structure in the world today. So yeah, I think it's good and positive that the world may be moving to a better and more collaborative structure. But at large, I do feel that our world is still very competitive. Signaling exists, degrees do matter, and yeah, as we continue on in this crazy world, I think it therefore just highlights, although not many people might agree with the idea of game theory, but I think to me it's a very relevant concept that helps me to understand the way the world is and why the world is in a certain way. Thank you.